Reviewing Hallowing Point Mood Swings EP. First track here, Ignorance. Before I get to the music itself, I do have to say I do like what you do with the art here. Aside from like how the text looks like it's actually on that roof, there, yeah, color change that you had going on throughout the section of the video, and I presume throughout the entirety of the length. They're
Yeah, it
it,
switches because each song has its own colorway,
right.
so it switches per song.
Now, getting to the music, uh, I recall when you were still working on this track, I stated this critique to you already, but the bass, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but that sounds kind of sort of like 808 sort of bass. Or,
Yeah, that's correct. I did that in Vital.
I personally can't say that this is necessarily how I would have used it. I mean, to be honest, I'm not wholly sure I would have used 808 in this context at all. But at the same time, I do find myself kind of split on, what would I do instead, there if it were me. Given the kind of again, breakcore esque elements you're going for there. Again, I know you primarily intend your tracks to be less like ambient breakcore and more ambience with drums. Is that how you once put it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that labels are too important, but I like what I listen to personally is ambient and breakcore, so I put together what I know and try my own stuff out.
Right. Again, the kind of breakcore aspect of course, kind of the stereotypical go to on that would be like, go for a Reese bass. There, at the same time, you are clearly going from more rhythm to the bass than just the simple sustained notes that would usually get used with a Reese bass. So a Reese bass, keeping that more
Yeah.
rhythmic aspect won't be wholly appropriate there, but I'm not quite sure. You what would you do instead? Because I'm not sure that a more plucky sounding bass per se is the way to go. I guess kind of the one thought coming to mind right now, and again, this is just going off top of my head. You can disagree. This is not a very thoroughly thought out idea. So I'm kind of wondering, was almost like a bass guitar type sound might have sounded like in there, and not like the slap bass sort of thing. Just your kind of standard picked bass.
Yeah, I think if I were to remake this song now, I probably would have put more thought into the bass. But yeah, thanks for the tip there.
Again, that's just personally what I might try. I'm not going to say it's objectively better or worse. I'm sure if I went ahead and did that idea myself, I know I'm going to have my critics judging that sound design choice or what have you. And again, of course, in general, maybe take my opinions a bit lighter. I have been at this for 7.5 years, but ambient slash breakcore is still a territory in which I'm not super well versed compared to you,
I mean, I'm
as
gonna
producer or listener.
I yeah, I get that. I as a little plug for you, you just released Havoc today on the day of recording, and I took a listen to it. It had some element. I liked how you definitely chopped the whatever break you had in there. I like that.
I mean, I suppose full disclosure there, I actually didn't do all that much chopping to it there. A lot of it was just the loop as it originally came.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Right, those bits that kind of sound like almost like skipping in a way. There, that bit was me.
Yeah, that I like that a lot. That was pretty creative. Like, and also when you did the pitch bends
Yeah,
or whatever you want to call
yeah,
those. Yeah, those were cool.
yeah. I was trying to find a way to implement more variation to it, which again, you definitely do better without all the fancy effects going on here. All which I do have to say, again, those almost more glitchy moments, for lack of better words, with the breaks there. I do like that with what you did in Ignorance here. Again, I won't do that like the whole duration of the track, which again you didn't do that here, but I know there's some producers who do. In general, though, will say you do definitely put in a fair bit of effort on your drums, and frankly, I think you're going for something breakcore esque. You kind of have to, considering just how much emphasis on the drums slash percussion that
Yeah,
genre
the
has.
drums, there's a bit of a piano melody in there, but the drums are like overall the main aspect of the song. If I were to redo this, I would probably add a little bit more variation because there's a few different like 4-bar loops that I use throughout, but like the second half of the song gets a little bit monotonous. I'm not sure if that's just the way I think of it because I've been working on the song so long, or if that's like how other people might think of it. But it's just something to keep in mind for next time, you know.
Yeah, that's fair. And to that end, I have to say on the piano, again, by and large, it does sound nice on its own. Though, of course, insert that one meme about breakcore piano and drums.
Oh yeah, totally. It really is. It's just a simple dotted eighth note melody. Well, it's the same notes being hit. It's a simple melody, but it really does follow that meme, and I gotta say, it's yeah, it is quite the stereotype there.
And in general, the whole dotted eighth pattern, and I would say this is a point on which your track, not going your typical breakcore tempos, there does work in its
Oh yeah,
favor for piano. Because I will say, like, at least me personally, you get up to like 170 BPM or so. Yeah, I'm just using that as benchmark for just general like D&B tempos. Honestly, I personally actually don't really like the dotted eighth pattern at that tempo. So you're going
yeah. This
more what do you have this at 135
is
give or
that
take?
I think it's at 145. So you're pretty close there. But yeah, this song specifically was a bit of a struggle because I wanted to keep the tempo high enough to where the drums felt nice, but low enough to where the piano felt nice. And I
Right.
found 145 to be a good medium there.
Yeah. I would say that's a fair assessment. Using 145 as the medium.
Yeah, so a little bit slower than most breakcore. So I guess if you want to be a real nerd about it, this isn't technically breakcore,
Right.
but you know,
Yeah.
I think labels are stupid anyways.
Yeah. And to be honest, I wouldn't call myself educated enough on that particular area to go nitpicking anyway. Which, of course, it's fine. I'm saying that in regard to a track literally titled "Ignorance,"
Yeah.
but I digress. Again, as I also recall saying to you before, some of the transitions seeming a bit sudden. Not personally how I would do it, but again, as I also recall telling you in the past, and I still stand by it. You're entitled to exercise your own artistic license there and whatnot. I guess with that last remark, you can move on to the next track. Dysania, it's pronounced.
Dysania. It's not really.
Dysania.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So that was dysania. And before I continue, I know you've defined this for me once before, but for myself once again, as well as everyone else who may not be familiar, could you define dysania, the word?
That's a great request. So dysania refers to like just it's like a fake-ish, like it's not a real medical term, but it's kind of one that refers to like a difficulty in getting out of bed, which is a fairly common problem for sufferers of depression. And I don't want to define the songs on this EP too much because I believe that art should be about the listeners, or I should be believe that songs are about the listener's interpretation.
Right.
So if anyone can find any meaning in this song other than what I originally gave it, that would be great. But this song specifically for me refers to it's the length of it is very long. It's 14 minutes, almost half the length of the whole EP, um, which also is meaningful to me, but it refers to like the difficulty getting out of bed and a sort of calm before the storm. And this at the end of the song, the words there are a little poem written and recorded by me um that kind of like explains some of the thoughts that I go through, or went through when in times where this song would have been representative of how I felt. It's reversed and there's effects over it. So if anyone wants to hear what it says, I'd like to wish you good luck. Might be a bit of a nightmare, but it's just it's that's what dysania, that's what the word means. That's what the song means to me.
I find it interesting that you refer to it as like a calm before the storm. My personal interpretation of this is almost vaguely inverse of that, if you will, or just strictly focusing on the auditory perspective. First half, maybe two-thirds of the song. For me, I felt like a real tension in that. I honestly really like that about this. There are not many songs I can think of that give me that feeling of tension, but this did that. So whether you intended that or not, kudos.
Thank
But
you. Yeah, that's I really appreciate that. That is what I was going for. When I say calm before the storm, I don't think that, like, if you know that a storm's approaching, you're not really calm. You're just waiting for something to happen. And that's what I tried to make the song sound like. If anyone out there, including you, wants to know like what I used for inspiration for this, the project How to Disappear Completely has a wonderful ambient album called Seraphim, and I had been listening to that a lot, especially like during the creation of this song. Most of the songs there are more calming, and the way the volume rises and dips in a sort of or in a way reminiscent of the sea, of the water rising and falling of the tides and all that. But that's kind of what I was using for inspiration here. And I was really I worked pretty hard trying to get the timbre to sound to give that sort of tension, and I'm glad that I succeeded, at least in your eyes.
I guess before I address the point of the inspiration, I guess continuing the point I was building on, I'm referred to it being like an inverse. The later parts of this song, though, let's call it the last third of the song, maybe, you have almost more like a major tone going into that pad there, which I think almost, from my perspective, were it not for the last 30 seconds to a minute of the song, almost feel like come after the storm in a way.
Oh, that's
Right.
interesting. Yeah, I resolve kind of from a tritone. I'd say maybe 2 to 3 minutes, maybe a little further from the end. So that's probably where that's coming from.
Probably. Yeah. A bit about how to disappear completely. Now, again, I'll be honest, I don't know them too much beyond just name, but I would not have guessed that as far as inspiration goes. See, what I was thinking, at least in the earlier bits, I know you're fond of C418 as more kind of like the Minecraft soundtrack and whatnot.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So,
totally.
so I was thinking maybe you might have been drawing a tad bit from that like 15-minute track or so he has going for the end.
That too for sure. The end, it's probably my second favorite ambient song. I just listed How to Disappear completely because I've probably been listening to them the most recently. This song was created a few months ago, but I was listening to them then as well. But yeah, the first like there's a section of the end, the C418 song, um, that I'd say like from a minute and a half to 5 minutes in that like has this amazing sense of peace to it, and it's honestly very very beautiful in my opinion. And what I did here, I wouldn't call it, it's definitely not peaceful. There's a lot more tension to it than that part of the C418 song. But I really, really love that song because it takes you on a sort of journey throughout. And there's so many different sections to it. Like that's the kind of music that I aspire to make. So if anyone's listening and loves ambient music or Minecraft music, make sure to check that out. It's a beautiful song, one of my all-time favorites. But yeah, that is also one of my big inspirations.
And I really am finding this concept that this track is going for pretty cool. So really well done on it.
Thank you. I think this of the songs on this album I or EP, I think this is the one that I might listen to the most because well I'm just a huge fan of ambient music in general, and I think that um I captured the sort of feeling that I wanted to in this piece, and I'm very very happy with the end result. And not for the self plug or anything, but in about a month I have an extended version of this already very long song coming out, which was it was the original it was the original version of the song, but it ended up being more than half of the entire EP's length. So I wanted to cut it down just because it felt a bit off balance there.
Yeah, that's fair. It's really in my head funny, ridiculous, cool, impressive, all of that at the same time. See,
Thank you.
people, yeah, actually pull off like these really big, long tracks. For a comparison, here would be as I know you're familiar with Lemonation's track Navigation, but I would say
I am.
the way you evolved this here, well, definitely much simpler on a surface level. I'd say is honestly a lot more effective, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, you mentioned Lemonation's track before Navigation. I took it's a the full cut of it is a 27-minute long track, which is absurd, and I love absurdity. I love long songs. Lemonation's track starts off with just two chords and just like builds and builds on that with just a few different instruments at a time until you have this full sort of orchestrated. I don't think that's the right word, but like just you
Perhaps
have a
not,
full
but I
sequence
get
of
what you're
songs.
going for.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you evolve from just a kick drum and these chord stabs to like this big grand track.
You here, on the other hand, for the most part, you guys seem to have stuck to just those same basic few elements, but with various automations, the ASDR, bit more changing of notes and chords there. I actually find that despite those relatively fewer elements, the evolution there is more effective in my opinion.
This that's what I was going for with this song. I wanted to make a piece that it's a bit hard to explain, but that kind of feeling where you don't notice that something is changing until you look back and like see how something has gone. That's not exactly the feeling I was going for here, but I think it can be like I think it can be compared.
Yes, I
Um
would agree with that assessment. Again, I do feel like that the sheer length of the track does kind of help that a bit.
yeah, I had a lot of space to work with here. Thank God I don't work for a record label, otherwise I would have had to make this a 3.5 minutes long.
Yep, somewhere in here is a Billy Joel joke. With that, I'm going to move on to the third track of the EP, Honesty. Right. So that was honesty, and I do have to say, a part of me is a little amused when I think of this in like the context of the EP at large. Because
How so?
think of how dysania goes. It's very calm, very slow sounding. Well, okay, I shouldn't say very calm, but you know, relatively low energy, slow track. And then you just go into this not quite, but kind of sort of almost like techno beat in a way.
Yeah, I the main arpeggio that plays throughout does have a sense of like franticness. Like that's what I was kind of going for there. It definitely is a change of pace.
It works. I do like it. But again, just in that context, I do find it a little funny. And then like toward the end, you start like building up the tempo quite a bit more, fade things out, and then eventually like bring things down with that what I'm guessing is the lo-fi filter on the effector in FL Studio.
Yeah, basically, I if you're talking about like the resampling thing or bit crusher, yeah, that's what that end is mainly comprised of.
But, okay, so I wasn't 100% accurate, but close enough that you knew I was
Yeah.
going for. In a way, it almost vaguely feels. I don't feel like anti build up is the right wording here, but I'm struggling to think of a better way to describe it. I guess the one thing that has me caught maybe a tad bit off guard. Again, we just got the very slightest momentary tease of like the next track, Anhedonia. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, the it pronunciation changes. I say anhedonia, but anhedonia is correct too, as far as I'm aware.
Fair enough. Yeah, we just had the very slightest tease right before the video
A little
paused
teaser.
there. But you get this kind of sort of abrupt close to honesty. Yeah, not 100% abrupt, of course.
Yeah, it was a bit of a struggle because I wanted Anhedonia to stand on its own because I don't this isn't like spoilers or anything, but Anhedonia is my favorite song out of the bunch, personally. I wanted it to stand on its own. So I didn't want to just like continue having that like heavy industrial like sort of thing leading into it, because that would have just been weird, especially with the sound font of Anhedonia. So I do start it with a bit of a riser fading out. It was a difficult balance there.
Yeah, I can understand why you would want a bit more distinction, for lack of better words, there, but between the two. I guess maybe the one thing I might have done there that you didn't is maybe at the end of Honesty do like a volume fade out kind of deal, well, kind of working together with the bit crushing.
I will say, of the songs on this EP, Honesty is the one that I have the most regrets about. And it's I believe that in this it's a finalized piece. Like I don't think it's unfinished necessarily, but I kind of personally I wanted it to be a bit more than it is because I've only been producing for less than a year, and my music theory knowledge isn't the greatest. I This was the last song in terms of when I worked on the songs. This is the one that I started the last and completed the last, and I should have taken the time that it needed instead of kind of rushing it a little bit. But, the song is done and I'm happy to be done with this EP and move on to the next thing. So this song is a little bit rough around the edges for sure. It was meant to like cover a hard time in my life, I'd say. And I'm not sure if this got across the feeling as well as the other songs did for what they represent, but all I can do is just move forward and hope that the next project is better than the last. I think it says something all artists strive for.
Yeah, I can get behind that statement.
If I made all of my songs perfect, I would only have one song and it wouldn't be released. I would just keep working on that. So I think at a certain point it's just best to move on from something.
Agreed.
A lot of the work on it was I'd say just listening to it when I was away from it, trying to see what I could add. This song has the lowest work time of all of the songs by a pretty big margin, actually.
Right.
If I have one regret, it's not starting this song sooner. Because to give a little bit of backstory, I just moved off to college, so I wanted to finish this EP and like get it done before I moved into my dorm. That's why the release date is what it is. That's why the song is a little bit rushed. And I set myself a goal. I wanted to finish this EP, which represents this chapter of my life, before I moved on to the next chapter of my life. And I got that done. And like I said before, I'm ready to start working on new projects. I already have some ideas in the works. And I think that's just the life cycle of an artist.
More or less, yeah. That's honestly a good way of putting it. Getting back to the actual music itself, again, that kind of techno-ish beat that you got going on, combining the standard like four on the floor kick with uh, breaks in the background.
I wanted it to feel a little bit threatening. Even though this version of the song had the least work hours, this is the third version of this song. The first two just there's something about making threatening music that it's just very difficult for me to do. Like that specific mood, it's hard because this song represents a very serious emotion to me, and like being able to capture all of that in a song, especially with like I won't lie, I would consider myself a bit of an amateur in this field. I've been making music since around January.
again,
Um,
that's your debut EP, so I can't fault
yeah,
you there.
exactly, exactly. As always, hope to make the next thing better. But nonetheless, this the other drafts of this song, one of them was in Phrygian, and I carried the bass line over to here. The bass line, it's the whatever's played on the respace. It's not the most complicated, but it is a little bit chromatic. I'd say
Yeah, I
it
definitely picked up on that.
it goes between a major two, which is in the minor scale, and a minor two, which is in the Phrygian scale. And I did that because it feels sort of unexpected, and I think that that unexpectedness kind of lends itself to the vibe of being a bit threatening. Like it feels like you're not welcome here. Is is what I tried to get across. And like I said, this song I don't think it represented my emotions as well as Dysania or the other songs. But I did what I could.
Totally fair. Guess with that, gonna move on to the final track of the EP, Anhedonia.
Right.
So, that was anhedonia. I guess let me start by saying, kind of following suit in a way with vaguely a techno-esque feel, albeit in a kind of different fashion. Does
Yeah, this also has a four on the floor beat throughout most of it, especially the first half. It gives it a sort of stability. That's what I was going for.
right. I guess one thing that has me thinking about is regarding honesty and the way that track ends. It kind of has me wondering now about your decision with honesty to ramp up the tempo as it approaches its end. A bit of a slow down might have made the transition between these two songs a bit smoother.
Yeah,
Again, that's just my personal
it's
take.
it was definitely an artistic decision here to be sure because the BPM of Honesty is 150, making it the fastest, and the BPM of Anhedonia is 130. It's not the slowest because the dysania is set to 80, but it very easily could be in double time at 160 or even
Right.
half time at 40, since it's so ambient. So I wanted there to be a bit of a disjoint there because personally honesty represents a sort of like the crashing down of trying to solve your problems or whatever. Anhedonia to me, it also is a sort of moving forward. It's the most hopeful and the most hopeless in the EP, at least to me, because that's the point where you move forward. And what makes it hopeless is that at the end, um it sort of it leads back into the EP. It's meant to be a cycle. It's a whole lot of emotions, and I'm not sure that everything came out how I wanted it to, and I'm not sure if other people would feel the same way. I hope I didn't like mess up your opinions by explaining how I feel about it before you did. That's why this piece is my favorite. This song feels the most honest to me. It feels very real, very realistic. The end of it is kind of a dual-sided thing. You know, are you going to move forward or are you going to go right back into it again? But anyway, that's what I have to say about it.
I can't really say I was feeling this as I was listening to it, if I'm being frank, but
That's okay.
it does make sense in retrospect, at least to some extent. And looking back at the more musical perspective, what that track almost reminded me of. I imagine you might not get this reference, but at least in the beginning parts, definitely not the full duration of the track, but at least a good amount of it. What I find myself thinking of is if the song Revolution by DJVI was done by a breakcore artist.
Interesting. I'll have to
Which,
check that out afterwards. I've listened to some of his music, but not that song.
at the very least, I feel like the beginnings are at least decently similar between the two tracks.
It may have a similar progression. I mean, the progression here is not very uncommon. It's 1 4 6 5 in harmonic minor.
Which again,
That's kind.
I know enough to tell you that's not what the DJVI track in question does.
Oh,
But
okay.
I guess when you take a listen to that sometime, if or when, you should be able to grasp at least a little of what I was getting at.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
That said, the comparison is amusing to me, but it is a compliment to some extent because guy that is a track that I like. They're a,
I'll take it. Thank you.
they're again, while I'm not totally certain that this too would go in the playlists I've put together, I like this enough that it's at least in consideration. Though, like,
All right.
uh, I will say though, Dysania does definitely earn a place there.
Oh, thank you. I've to anyone listening, we've Synfang here has a playlist and I've been told that the other songs that I've made before this will not go in that. So to see that I am moving ahead in Synfang's taste is good to hear.
I mean, I guess in all fairness, knowing me, a decent amount of that probably is in part because of the style slash genre that
Yeah,
at least
we work in different fields.
on Hedonia. Dysania again, I may not listen to ambient all that much, but come on, Minecraft's my favorite game. You're gonna tell me that the
Nice.
C418 track reminiscent is not gonna be to my tastes.
Very glad to hear.
But
Yeah, I'm glad you like that one.
I guess overall, if I had to rank, in my personal opinion, tracks on this EP. I'd put Dysania as number one, or then Anhedonia, then Ignorance, and then Honesty as the last one.
That's close to my personal ranking. I would switch Dysania and Anhedonia. But that might just be because of what Anhedonia means to me. It's ranking ambient songs against other ones is difficult just because they're quite different. But yeah, I
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah,
But overall though, you I can definitely hear you put a good amount of work into this EP, and I'm really curious to see what you do next.
thank you. Yeah. I got stuff in the works as we all do. And yeah, I this EP has been what I've spent a lot of my time on. Like I've made other songs, but like I've only released two things so far, and one of them was a song from this, the first one. So this is where a lot of my time has gone over the past few months, and I'm very glad that it's finally over, and I'm glad that it came to fruition. That's for sure.
Well, thank you for your time, and for everyone watching this, be sure to check out Hallowing Point for yourselves. And
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And if I want to jump in here real quick and say that if anyone is watching this who liked the music, I would recommend Synfang's Sucker Punch. That's probably my favorite track in their discography. So if you like this kind of music, I'd say that might be close. Also, Havoc, which was just released today, the day of recording, has a few nice breaks thrown in there. So I say check those two out for sure. Yeah, make sure to subscribe to Synfang, this channel and the main channel. Their work has been like crucial in just finishing this EP and just like all of the music I have and will make. Highly recommend.
thank you, and the same could be said of you as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Like this EP, I know it's sort of cheesy, but it really would not have been possible without you, just because like you're the person who taught me how to use FL Studio, and you taught me a lot of the music theory that I know. So I'm very appreciative of that. So yeah, I'll be putting this on my socials too or whatever, whenever it goes out.
With that, thank you everyone for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Comment down below what you thought of it, and I hope to see you next time.